สวัสดีค่ะ
Hi. Hi,
ดี
Ajahn.
มาก
Good to see me.
ส
Hello.
สวัสดีทุกคนค่ะ
ค่ะมี
Amazing.
3 คน
I can even
เดี๋ยว
do this.
ดีใจมากนะคะที่ได้ยินเสียงทุกคนค่ะ
ค่ะขอบคุณค่ะ ก็คิดว่าคุณทอมกับคุณเบฟจะมาเดี๋ยวอาจจะมาสายหน่อยค่ะ
ไม่เป็นไรค่ะ เพราะเหตุว่าไม่ทราบที่โน่นกี่โมงนะคะ ค่ะ
โอ้ที่คุณทอมกับคุณเบฟเหรอคะ8 โมง 2 ทุ่มค่ะ 2 ทุ่ม
2 ทุ่มค่ะ
It's only 2:00 at my place, though.
Yeah and I'm 5 โมงเย็นค่ะ
And roti is also the same for you. It's only 1. I mean,
7 p.m.
Yeah.
ค่ะ ดีจัง
It looks like
เชิญ
คุ
ค่ะ
ณนพดล is here too
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
Well, I'm just getting used to this. I've never done this before, so beginning to see all the little pictures up at the top.
Good Good Ajahn, we just contacted the people in North America. I don't know whether, we're going to want to contact other people about this discussion or not. I guess we can see.
Let them know, see
Yeah.
if they want to join in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, I think this time of day in Australia is pretty good. It's not bad. It's morning,
Right.
mid-morning.
And it's
Something
fine in
like that.
Thailand too. Yeah. I guess it depends on, Ajahn was talking, when I spoke last week, Ajahn was talking about a smaller group. So let's see.
Okay. Yeah.
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 Well, does anybody have any questions they want to start with or topics they want discussed?
Well, I don't really have a good question, but I started reading again the process of jittas. And so there are some issues we were talking about in January as well, under the title or under the heading of nimitta, I think, and also panyatis. And
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't really have a good question, but what I am just puzzled at the function of each one of the jittas through the process and the words that are used to, like receiving, that one I understand, investigating, that sounds, but determining was something that didn't really seem. What was that? Hello?
I'm
Yes.
still here.
ค่ะ I'm listening.
Okay.
The dog barks and bites.
Oh, that was a dog barking.
But now it's all right.
He wants to join us.
As background.
It sounds like my kitty cat. When I talk on the phone, she thinks I'm talking to her.
I see. Is she there now? Here? There?
No, she's taking a nap in the other room. So
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Maybe she'll join us.
she might join us later, thinking I'm talking to her. Yeah.
Yeah. Now they are all about nimitta and panyati, right?
Yes, we were talking about
Yes.
nimitta and panyati in January, and I was looking through my notes. And then I was looking something up, and this morning I found this in the Compendium of Philosophy. That's the Abhidhamma Sangaha. In its appendix, it says the one mental act of sense perception indicated by the words I see a rose, we distinguish 4 vittis. Vision, that is Chaku Dwara Vitti. Reproduction sequel, that's Tad Anuvataka Mano Dwara Vitti. And then conceiving the name or Nama Panyati Vita. viti, and discerning the meaning of the name Atta Panyati Viti. And I think we discussed some of this in January, but I think we were using different words, different titles, something to do with Vaja Manena. Does that ring a bell? Anne, do you remember this discussion?
Okay, yeah. Because all the words of the teaching of the Buddha represent whatever is now appearing, and nobody can understand the absolute truth of it. That's why from his enlightenment, he taught all that he had enlightened for the others to listen, to understand what is now, because the truth must be only in this moment, because it arises in false way in split seconds. That's why it does not appear as it is. Just one is not enough. But there must be the absolute reality. Otherwise, there cannot be anything at all in the world or anywhere at all. So now, I think that when we consider what is now appearing, we can understand better what he is talking about now. For example, what is seen now? See, if no one has heard the teaching of the Buddha at all, no idea what there is something down there so deep that no one could understand, because not enough right understanding and all Kusala Dhammas to support. That's why I think that now what is seen is not as it is, but thinking about moment of seeing, begin to consider what is really seen. Only that which can impinge on the eye base, and then it falls away in split second. But Buddha taught us about the details, the subtlety of that moment. What is there? It seems like a moment, but there are many moments in a moment. For example, right now, seeing is not the citta which arises before it, and it's not the citta which follows it at all. It's only one moment only among all now what is happening or appear. For example, it seems like there, as soon as one opens one's eyes, so many things around. How come possible or impossible to have that appear as that? But now it is appearing. So ignorance is there, not really understand that what appears is only that which impinges on the eye base and condition the seeing to arise, just to see it in a moment, only one moment, because the moments before seeing, the moments after seeing cannot see at all. But it shares the same object as seeing, because it follows the seeing in process. That's why we learn to understand that actually we live in the world of sunyata, anatta, no self at all, and nothing can stay long enough to take it for something, because even right now, the characteristic of that which sees and that which is now appearing does not appear as it is, because of the flux of the arising and falling away of that which appear and that which experience it all the time, unknowingly. And this is why we understand what's meant by enlightenment, the truth, which no one can know it. Because whenever there is seeing, there is the idea of something is seen so fast. But seeing is not thinking. It's not knowing what is there at all. That's why we learn about each moment of citta as conditioned to arise by different pajya or conditions. So what is seen now is the panyati, the understanding, that which makes known as something. As soon as one opens one's eyes, there are idea already about the fan or the room or the bed or the pillow or whatever is there. Instantly. That is not the truth. because the truth is actually nothing has arisen yet. And then when there are conditions, it's that now, just right now. No one knows about the conditions for anything arising at all. But it's there by conditions. This is to learn to understand from the very beginning that actually there is no one, no self. Everything is not permanent at all. Just it's conditioned to arise and it falls away instantly. Only one moment. But uncountable moments, at moment of we open our eyes and see many things. See, that's why we learn to understand the magic word of citta and cetasika, that which experiences, but no one at all. No one can make any reality to arise. No one can make seeing now to arise because it has a reason all the time by conditions. That's why to learn to understand that what is now appearing is not as it is. And when there is the idea of something, because the rapidity of the succession from seeing to thinking of shape and form, and before there can be any shape or form, how many movements of the impingement of that rupa, which is seen now and falls away all the time, to condition the idea of trees, many trees around, and many leaves more than just one tree. See, it is very rapid world which arises and falls away all the time. So whatever is seen is that which has nimitta for panyati to make it known as something, like the bird is flying, see. As soon as it's there to be seen, the idea of bird is flying is there already, see. So that's why without nimitta, there cannot be panyati. And how come to have nimitta? The rapidity of the succession of the arising and falling away of all dhammas which are conditioned. For example, seeing are conditioned by 7 cetasikas and other paccaya as well. The karma conditioned it to arise to just experience that particular object. See, many things in life unknown from eons and eons and eons ago. That's why to understand from the very beginning that actually there is no one and nothing at all if nothing arises at all. But when there is nothing and then there's something, it's the unknown as it is. It brings about the idea of something, always something, even we don't know what is it. For example, the sound is heard. We don't know what sound, so we think, what is that sound? See, the idea of self or something is accumulated for a long time. That's why it has to take the Buddha's word from the very beginning as pariyatti to be well known, understood, very skillful to understand what is meant by each word of the teaching. As long as it will bring about the understanding what is now appearing, it's the Buddha's word. If not, it's not his word at all. So now, without the absolute realities, there cannot be nimitta. But how come to be nimitta? The rapidity of the arising and falling away of all dhammas, condition such nimitta, different colors at moment of seeing. And by then, the panyati, thinking about the shape and form, make it known as something. That's why we understand what's meant by panyati. Without nimitta, there cannot be nimitta. Without nimitta, there cannot be panyati. Without the absolute realities, there cannot be nimitta. Anytime, anywhere, from eons and eons ago and now and eons ahead. We cannot change. No one can change the characteristic of all realities. No one can stop the appearing of shape and form and panyati. But the truth is enlightened by the Buddha. And we can consider whether it's true or not. Little by little, until panya develops on and on and on and on. So the purpose of studying the teachings is to understand what is now as it is, because what is now appearing is not the tree, not the leaf, not the yard or anything at all. It's just only that which can be seen. Now, see?
Well, from what I just read, it seems like it takes at least 4 processes to come up with even the simple concept of it's a rose.
The first process of experiencing an object, the moment seeing, cannot understand or take that which appears as anything at all, because the citta is the chief of experiencing the characteristic of the rupa which appears only. It does not know what it is, it just sees. It experiences, the chief of experiences, the characteristic of that which appears, while the other cetasikas arising with it performs its function together all at once and then following. So that's why there are Cittanupassana Satipatthana, and then Vedanaupassana Satipatthana, and Dhammanupassana Satipatthana. All about now.
All about now, yes.
Yes. That's why if we don't know that we are studying to understand what is now appearing, it's useless. It's only words of doubt too, because we don't understand what it means. Is it clear enough for Paramadadhamma and then Nimitta and then Panyati? So we live in the world of Nimitta, from moment to moment.
But still, in the first process, the object of all of the dittas in the process is the reality, right?
Yes, Paramadadhamma. Because seeing sees Paramadadhamma. Seeing cannot see other things.
It's a reality.
Yeah. It's only the idea after seeing. The mind process follows. But the first process of mind after seeing must be the same object as seeing sees. Right, the replica or the photocopy, the object is just like that. Nobody can do anything or in split seconds.
But
so the truth
is still confused in the process by the term Votapana, meaning determining. But
no,
is that really something more like recognizing it as color or something like that?
Because I think that since the reality is very difficult to understand, that's why the translation from the word in Pali into different language with one's own understanding. It doesn't matter what word is used, but whatever represents the reality truthfully, truly, that can be known. Like before the process, there must be pavanka, the flux of pavanka, and then interrupted. For example, that which impinge on the eye or ear or nose or tongue or body, see, and there are conditions which is kamma, only that kamma which condition that moment to experience that particular object, not other object. So when the object impinges on the sense door, at that moment no seeing, no hearing yet. But pavanka is disturbed by the impingement of the object to the sense door. That's why Panchatavara Vachana is just like from moment of pavanka, nothing appears at all. It knows what impinges on what doorway, that's all. Why do we say that doorway? Because it cannot be other doorway. When it is the visible object, when it is sound, they are different by doorway. That's why whatever impinges on the sense door, the first, the vara, viticitta, which means any citta, which does not perform the function of pavanka, any citta which is not pavanka is viti citta, different viti in a process. Like Panjatavana Vachana is the first viti citta. It cannot be seeing, it cannot be sampatichana. That's why it's just one viti citta, different from other viti of the process. Any citta which is not pavanka is viti citta, no matter through what sense door or mind door. That's why when it's sense door process, seeing cannot arise instantly, or hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, because it has to be viti patipataka manasikara in Pali, which attend to the object but does not see it. Like when one is in the room and someone is there at the door or the gate, we know that something there, someone is there, but we don't know what and who, for example. So viti citta, the first viti citta, Panjatavara Vachana, cannot know the object as anything. It cannot see yet. It cannot see at all because it's just disturbed by the impingement of the object and the sensor. But it knows. That's why it's not pavanka anymore. It's the first viti citta, which only know what's there, just what's there. For seeing to see it,
Know
for
something is
hearing to
there.
hear it.
Yeah.
What
And,
would say?
after the see, then the jittas also do not see, right?
Certainly.
But they know
Only
what the object
knowing.
is.
Yes, that's why Buddha showed us different functions, different objects through different ways. They share the same object, but its function is not to see, but it's to receive that which seeing see, to be the object, to know only that object. So all the viticitas, the Panchatavara Vachana Viticitta, or the Chakku Vinyana, or Aviticitta, Sampatichana Santirana, Bhutapana, even the Javana does not know what it is, just experience the same object as seeing, but they do not see. Only seeing sees. This indicates that actually who can understand the truth as it is without enlightenment. And enlightenment means the highest panya, which can directly experience the truth. And not only satipatthana, it's the moment when panya develops on after developing the satipatthana to be able to experience that as it is, which is vipassana jnana. See, nothing there, only that which is the object and the experience. That's why it is nama, rupa, paricetta jnana. But it's not in the beginning. It's not at the moment of patipatti. Because it begins to directly aware of the characteristic which one has learned from hearing again and again until it's so firm that it is the satyayana at level of pariyatti. But it takes quite a long time, and when nothing appears, it's impossible to understand. For example, the direct awareness, if it does not appear, it's not that which is satipatthana or sati sampajanya in Pali, or direct awareness with, together with panya at the level of beginning to get used to the characteristic which is the self, but it's not clear yet. That's why the word clear appear well means only to panya at different levels.
But the clear understanding, isn't that associated Votapana? That's with Votapana.
Mm-hmm. No, Votapana is a hetuka citta. No hetu with it, no loba, dosa, moha, aloba, adosa, amoha at all.
Okay, it's Giriya.
Yes, because it can experience both the pleasant and unpleasant, which is the result, the rupa. At the moment when it's experienced, it has to be the result of kusala kamma or akusala kamma, according to kamma, because the object is pleasant. So the akusala karma cannot condition akusala citta to experience that. See, all are by conditions. Many conditions in a moment, different ones as well.
Well, is there any use in trying to understand what these functions are? I still have some trouble with some of the functions, like Javana, which experience and running through to see clearly. That's all I can understand. It's something that to understand it more clearly. Is that correct?
The self is all around of the five khandas. See, so what is the movement of trying to understand from the very beginning? It's not self. It's not enough until there can be the movement of understand different realities in a day. From learning to understand about no self. For example, when one is trying to do something, viriya shows up. But when it's not such, like seeing or the other citta without viriya, viriya does not appear. Even when a moment with viriya, still viriya does not appear. That's why it's the idea of I'm trying. So the path leading to the enlightenment of the Four Noble Truths, Buddha said, so very deep, so very subtle, it's so very difficult to experience. That's why we read the teaching of the Buddhas, not carelessly at all. It has to be with respectfully considering of the truth that is so very difficult for him even to experience that enlightened, because it needs parami, which he shows how many paramis are there. For example, the Satya parami, to be truthful to the truth, that what is there is not self. No one can direct or can control or can make anything to arise at all. By conditions, like seeing right now, we are talking, but so many things appear at this moment through the eye door. See, who makes that? Who conditions that? So whenever what is there, the idea of self is there. As long as it's not understand the truth, for example, nothing appears at all, and then something is there. It has to arise, and there must be conditions for its arising. But avijja cannot understand that. There is the idea instantly. What is it? Something. When we use the word what? Something. See? It's so very deep and subtle to begin to consider the words of the teaching to understand clearly or with more confidence of the truth. That is very difficult to understand, and it's not anyone's trying to do anything or wish to have it any time, because that is not understanding. So the understanding is there to understand that actually there's many levels of understanding. For example, without hearing the teachings, no understanding of the truth. If one does not study carefully, one has wrong view about it. And that brings about the wrong practice, trying to do instead of how much understanding is there at moment of seeing. If not yet the understanding of that which appears little by little as not self, it's impossible, because how can there be condition for direct awareness of any reality to arise, to understand that, just to understand, not to get something from doing anything, because in reality, whatever is real is not self, no matter what, even the rupa, nama, the citta, and the cetasika. So when we talk about virya, it's not self, because it has its own characteristic. It's not citta, it's not that which now sees, which is the chief of experiencing the object only. That's why the Buddha used the word for each citta as pandara, because not talking about the taint of akusala or the kusala reality which arises with it. Citta itself, no matter what arises with it, it is not that which arises with it, but it's that which experiences the object. But even so, without panya, it does not appear well. Why? Because all realities arise and fall away in split seconds. So how can there be clear understanding of that, as not anatta? For example, now, there is seeing, and one heard the words, not self, nothing, only that which can be seen. And where is it? Without the solidity, Prithvi Dhatu, and all the Mahabhuta Rupa, there cannot be such which can impinge and appear as different colors. Or even it's all black, or even it is all white. There is something there as white, black, and something in mind all the time. Because not understanding what condition that just to appear and then disappear instantly. So it's so much we learn to let go, to have less attachment, because of there is understanding that it's not more, no more. As soon as it appears, it disappears. So once you cling to that which follows, the same, by same conditions, to be such, appearing to the citta which experiencing it. But actually nothing is there. Each moment is gone completely, absolutely, never to return at all in samsara. You cannot find it anywhere, in any plane of existence at all. But this is a way to have less and less attachment, but very, very gradually, unknown all the time at moment of understanding, and only the moment of understanding develop to understand better and better, very slowly, as it has to go against the idea of self and akusala, because they have been accumulated quite a long, long time ago, more than understanding. That's why understanding is now developing among all akusala. After seeing 3 moments, it's there, the asava, kamasava, pavasava, citta-sava, avijjasava, who's instantly, no one knows now. That's why from the understanding, hearing the teachings, understanding the reality, the truth of it is no one, no self at all, no more. Each moment just gone all the time. And where is that which is gone? Never to be found, nowhere. It's absolutely good. This will condition the understanding to have less attachment, little by little. We can say that without this, there can never be the moment of letting go anything from clinging and wrong understanding as something there. So the truthfulness is satya parami, to the truth that it cannot be changed. Even the moment of enlightenment, whatever is there as usual is as usual. No one can change its way at all. In Pali, it is dhammata, but in Thai, it is dhammada. Naturally, usually.
Yeah. Dhammada.
Yes, ธรรมดา ฝนตกเป็นธรรมดาของฝน
It seems I see the rose instantly.
Yeah, but it cannot be as it is at moment of seeing with ignorance, no understanding at all. That's why the most precious moment and the most precious reality is panya. So we don't expect for anything at all. Just learn to understand, and understanding is not me, it's not self, it's a reality without the teachings of the Buddha. No condition for it to arise to understand what is now as it is from hearing, the beginning of the developing of higher understanding until the moment of enlightenment is there. Much different, because it's exactly like what Buddha said. whatever appears does not appear well, because many moments of realities are so very sudden and rapid that it cannot be as it is to be known. It falls away all the time. But from nimitta, it's there. That's why Buddha said the nimitta of rupa, the nimitta of vedana, the nimitta of sanya, the nimitta of sankhara khanda, and the nimitta of vijnana khanda. See, that's the truth. And he showed that the process must be like that. Panya cannot be in the panya cannot just arise after the moment of seeing. See?
Mm. So when you say the nimitta
yes.
of sanya, that I sort of understand, but the others? So the object of any of those become a nimitta, is that it?
Yeah, everything appears as nimitta because the sense of process cannot be understood as it is until vipassana jnana is there. Very so short, while all the other processes must be dark completely because nothing is there to be known. Only that which is there as the visible object and the experiencing. See, the world is lost. Even now it is lost, but no one knows that when the object appears well or clearly, it begins from the satipatthana, which is sati sampajanya, which is not enough. It has to develop on and on and on until it conditions movement of kattayan, vipassana jnana. How clear it is when it just appears only one nimitta. No other nimitta can appear together at all. But even so, that is nimitta of reality which arises and falls away. But it's clearer than the moment when it appears now. And pariyatti begins to develop, understand that actually it cannot be anything else. It's only that which is seen, and it's so short. And the idea of things and words are there after, very soon, all the time in life. So it's the flux of pavanka interrupted by the piti-citta, no matter what doorway, and then pavanka again. Pavanka means nothing is left. But now who knows pavanka in between, seeing and hearing, thinking. But Buddha enlightened the truth. Otherwise, there cannot be the understanding of no one, no self at all. Because they are realities, no one understands it as not self. That's why Buddha told us all about what is now appearing. Just in a moment, and then it's gone. So we don't mind about the past, it's gone. It cannot be known or enlightened, the truth, because it's gone. And the future hasn't come yet. And even now, it arises and falls away unknowingly, but begin to understand what is there behind the nimitta, behind the paññatti. It is that which cannot be taken from self at all. And this is a path, the Buddha's path. That's why, after enlightenment, the Four Noble Truths, and the fourth truth is the path. Who knows it now? One is just walking or creeping on a little to understand the truth. And Panya begins again and again, different levels, until the truth is directly experienced. As usually, as normally, very thamada, naturally. So trying to do something, the self, the idea itself is there. No understanding what is there. Not me at all. They are acitta or acitasika. Acitta, I mean type or class or category, not just a moment, one moment. So avijja is there all around in life, from birth to death. If there is no understanding, the parayatti, very skillful, it cannot be conditioned from direct awareness to arise at all. Not right condition from anything to arise. So what arises is not like we hope or think or wish. It's against the lopa all the way, little by little. At moment of understanding, there is no avijja there at that moment. And when there is more understanding, avijja is less and less and less. Little by little, very gradually. Cannot be compared to anything at all. It's like holding the knife handle until it's
Ajahn,
worn away.
Go ahead.
Okay, if I can go back just a bit, I believe you said something about, well, you've said before everything is nimitta, and I guess I'd never thought of it before as the jetasikas also, when they appear, it is the nimitta of the jetasika. For instance, of panya or what else? Lopa.
Can a moment be directly experienced?
No.
See, that's why there must be nimitta of that reality to be known. Anytime, like when lopa is there, it cannot be known as just one moment of lopa, but many moments. So it can appear as lopa, attachment, like, want, wish, and so on. So it's so vague, it cannot appear as clear. That's why what is meant by what Buddha said, appears well,
Yes.
and then clearly, see?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And only Panya can understand that, see? That's why listening to the teachings carefully, respectfully, that is so very difficult to experience the truth. That's why it has to be stage by stage from pariyatti. When it is jnana satya, satyayana of pariyatti, it will prevent the idea of I do or I can do and I should do or I shall do at all. Beginning to think about now of that which appears, but it's just only thinking from hearing and understanding theoretically or intellectually. So one knows very true satya is not that moment of having understanding of just one characteristic of reality. Yet,
Yes.
like now, see, that's why panya, which arises with sammasati, which is sampajanya, knows at that moment as it is, as not self, because unexpectedly, by conditions, it appears just like now, but no thought about it, not understanding enough to understand the truth. That's why it needs more and more understanding from hearing the teachings of the Buddha and see the value, the most precious thing. And that brings about the respect, the true respect to the enlightenment, because understand his virtues so great, much more than he taught.
Thank you. That's good. Does anyone else have anything?
Not right now.
Okay. Roti, did you have anything you wanted to ask or say? Can you turn your mic on?
Ajahn, you said that behind the nimitta there's the no self, and behind
the paramatta. So paramatta Dhamma cannot be self. It cannot be I or anything. It is
So that
just
means
it is as
so
Paramata
that
Dhamma.
so if Paramata Dhamma is behind the nimitta, it means nimitta is not Paramata Dhamma, right?
Without Paramata Dhamma, can there be nimitta?
No.
That's why we learn to understand what is there in life from moment to moment.
But all we can see is nimitta. So how can we ever know Paramata Dhamma if we can only see nimitta?
What about the Buddha's teaching from his enlightenment? So what is meant by enlightenment? Understand the truth as it is, not just intellectually, but not only just develop understanding, because intellectual understanding condition another moment of sati, which now we are talking about seeing, but no awareness of seeing it all, no awareness of that which is seen. But from hearing more and more without expectation, it conditioned, the Sankhara Khanda is now developed, it's now performing its function, each of them. Sanya is there, Vedana is there, Sati is there, Hiri, Ottappa, and so on, are there with the moment of understanding. So everything is unexpected when it arises. It's not
Yes,
because
but
I make it or I do it, but it's there. How come to be Chitta and Cetasika and Rupa, different realities? Because now, without that which experiences, can anything appear?
right. Yeah, but
So,
my
what is now
my
appearing? We begin from that. If nothing arises at all, or which is seen and known in daily life, cannot be directly experienced at all. So now
well,
there must be the reality which is now experiencing. No one can be the moment of seeing because it's conditioned and following in split seconds. Without that, can there be, I see something? See, because it's there as object, but so very fast from one moment to another moment. So what is seen is only the succession of that which arises and falls away in split seconds as shape and form because of different colors. Is when it's the same color, can we say that that is that, this is this at all? When it's all black, can we say that that is a rose and that is a tree? But when there's light, which is seen as well, but we don't have to classify whether it is light or whether it's things, because they are all that which can be seen. See? So begin to understand the moment of seeing as no one there. But there must be that which is seen, but not as it is, because the rapidity of the succession of the arising and falling away of that kind, the same kind, conditioned by the same maybe citta or kamma or utu or ahara, that rupa is only that, just one in lifetime in samsara and then gone. But what follows is the different colors and shape and form from thinking and thought about many things from the shape and form. So the shape and form is the nimitta of that which arises and falls away unknowingly. Cannot stop the way it is, cannot make it arise as it is or not as it is at all, because no one can change the absolute reality, but not understanding that it's not I at all. It's only a moment of experiencing something, and then they are called gone completely, absolutely, never to return.
so
So without Paramata Dhamma, can there be nimitta?
no, Ajahn, but shape and form, is it nimitta or is it panjati?
Certainly. Even citta or sanya or vedana, no matter when it appears, it's the nimitta of so many moments of that characteristic. Not only one moment. Can one moment be experienced with Vanya or with what? Just one. like Panchatavara Vachana, can it be known as not seeing? And seeing self is not Sampatichana, which arises after it. See? No understanding until Buddha taught us about different citta, different processes in a day, and Pavanka in between each process. Nothing is left at moment of Pavanka completely, but it's not known. That's why there is the idea of I see, I hear, whatever is there is I because of ignorance and clinging to that as I. As soon as something there, all right, nothing appears at all. Is there you? To be truthful, Satya, nothing appears through the eyes, the ears, nose, the tongue, and body. Is there you?
No, Ajahn. No you.
Yes, there is. There is for sure.
We think there is you, right?
Certainly.
We
Because
think
there
it's
is you
wrong
yesterday and today and on and on. Even while asleep, wake up, experience anything or not experience through the sense door. But the mind door is moment of having some idea, even it's not said or pronounced, it's there. Something is there and it's I. You cannot get rid, you cannot be away from the idea of I as long as Panya is not there to understand that it's not you because what it is at that moment. It's not Pavanka because it's experience something with ignorance. Because when it's not Pavanka, no matter what is there, it has to be through any of the 6 doorways. And when there is no 5 doorways, what about the mind door? You don't have to say that it's mind door, but something is there. And there's doubt about it because it's a process, mind door process, not Pavanka. So even closing your eyes, don't hear anything, don't smell, don't taste, and there's no hardness, softness at all, but still something there. When it's Panya, it can understand that moment as Nama, the reality which does not any shape and form at all, and that moment it experiences something. So the experiencing is there, but no understanding. So what is it? Or I am, but I don't know where and what, but still I is there, as long as it is not Pavanka.
So, Ajahn, you often say that understanding grows by listening, hearing, and considering. So how does considering grow without you automatically think of an I am considering, I'm thinking, but that's intellectually thinking about it. How this naturally grows, tamada, listening, hearing, considering.
This moment is Thamada. And what about when there is no seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching? Is there still something? Don't know. But actually, no shape, no form, no rupa which can experience at that moment, can be experienced at that moment. But there is something there, isn't it? And something there with the idea of I. Which doubt or which think about it. See? So it's so daily life, everyday life, every moment, but not understanding it as not self. That's why Buddha taught about different moment which experiences as different citta and cetasikas. No one at all beginning to understand at the level of pariyatti, which will condition direct awareness because of understanding the truth of reality more. So from having more and more understanding, it conditioned the moment of direct understanding, and that moment it is direct awareness. But there must be understanding. Otherwise, it is not at level of of understanding, not just intellectual. At moment of touching now, it depends on what level of understanding. When no understanding, no priyati at all, it's something all the time. Even you don't say out, it's table or it's my finger. But the idea of something there is that moment, no understanding the truth. And it arises and falling away cannot be directly experienced because it's only no understanding from the very beginning to have less attachment because everything is covered up by avijja and tanha all the time until it is less because of direct awareness begins to be aware of a characteristic as anatta-ness unexpectedly, no time to think about it before it arises. But when you think, no matter how much about it, and it does not arise because no conditions for its arising. See, everything is exactly the same. Don't change or try to do anything else because at that moment, avijja and lobha hinders the growth of the understanding. The idea of I or self is adding more and more. Each moment of trying to do with I want to have it. It's still the I, more and more, instead of understanding and have less idea of I, because even that moment is conditioned. Even the wrong understanding is conditioned. The right understanding is conditioned. Without conditions, nothing can arise at all. It develops the idea or the understanding of no self a little more, little by little. So very, very little. For example, in a day, what about in a month? What about in a year? What about in one's lifetime? That is not enough. That's why one knows that it's quite a long, long way, but it can be reached with the understanding, the truth, little by little. And this is the only way to lessen the clinging to the idea of self, to understand. So when there is listening to the teachings, just to understand, that's all. And what is to be understood? No one, no self. Beginning from hearing, considering, and even right now, no matter how many times one has heard about seeing, sees that which impinge on the eyebrows. No idea about anything at all. And when it's mind or process in between each sensor process, even seeing, many processes of seeing must be mind or process in between each. And they are unknown. That's why from hearing and considering whether this is true or not. And when there is the understanding of the truth as the truth, that is not me, it's only a reality which understands instead of not understanding avijja.
It's what reality is that? Yes. Question.
So I have a kind of a funny question. Do you have a panya meter that can measure if you are learning anything?
So what is panya?
Well, I just think many of us have studied off and on for more than a few years. And certainly we know the words very well, and we know the relationship between the words. And I know that if you're thinking about, do I know more Dhamma or do I know less Dhamma? But when you say, when you have right understanding, that's not just thinking, it's knowing something directly. But how do we know? How do we know?
We just talk about when, but it's so far. What about now to lead to that point? Not just talk about the word. The word cannot bring about that understanding, cannot lead to that stage of understanding, higher stage. Not just understanding what the word means about reality right now. For example, who does not know seeing But seeing is I see. What is wrong? It's the nimitta of seeing whatever appears, not in just a moment only, alone. It's not like that. Because other reality succeeds instantly, very rapidly. So no thinking, no understanding of that which is gone. And so when the future has come to the present, no understanding again and again, until there is very careful thinking of the truth as the truth. Can the truth be anything else like I or something? Impossible. That's why we begin to understand what we call panya, right understanding of it, of the object which appears. So what we are learning, not about the word, but about that which the word represents. For example, seeing. As soon as we hear this word, we don't think about hearing or everything else, just that which is our seeing. So, and it's not yet direct awareness, because it's there. It depends all on understanding how much is there, as very skillful of pariyatti to understand more and more firmly that actually it cannot be anything else. It cannot be taken for self or chair or anything at all. It has its own characteristic and then arises and falls away in split seconds. To know whether that is true and that which understand correctly cannot be wrong, that is a reality which begins to understand what is there now. Even intellectually, it's better than none at all. No conditions to have further understanding. Then there is no beginning yet. That's why we understand the usefulness of pariyatti. Without pariyatti, one goes wrong for sure.
Ajahn, are you okay to move on here, Tom? I was reading something the other day. I believe it was a transcription of one of the discussions with the Vietnamese group. And it was about Frittaka, touching the object. And we've spoken before about Passa, touches the object very lightly. Frittaka touches it more strongly, and vichara, the sustained thinking, even more. And we talk about without Frittaka, there could be no thinking. For instance, after Frittaka doesn't arise with seeing, but if it didn't arise with the following jittas in that process, then there could be no thinking. There could be no thinking about it. And you were talking about Frittaka leads the jitta and the other jetasikas to the object which seeing has experienced. And I guess I've never thought about it that way. But the more I did think about it, then I started thinking, read my notes here, that yes, if you don't have that, of course, there can be no, if there's no Frittaka, there can be no further thinking, there can be no further, that process won't go any further. So can you talk a bit more about that? The function of Frittaka as leading the jitta and jetasikas in that process to the object?
How many jetasikas arise in a citta which is not the seeing, hearing through the five senses?
At least 7?
Yes. So how many citta can have only 7 cetasikas to be conditions?
I'm not remember in the.
Okay, how many cittas which doesn't have other cetasikas arising with it, because only 7 can condition that citta.
Oh, only the
How many
sense door.
cittas?
Only the seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling.
Yeah, 2 of them. That's why only 10 cittas have
Yes.
only 7 cetasikas, enough to
Yes.
condition its arising, because of karma, to experience just the moment of experience that which impinge on the eye. No more idea or anything at all. Just sees, that's all. So, but the other citta, sampatichana, needs vittaka as well.
Yes.
So no one knows about that at all. Even seeing now, it's not known yet. But from hearing and learning, it conditioned moment of understanding that actually there's no one to make anything arise, but there are different conditions. So what is Frittaka? It's different from the 7 cetasikas. Phassa is one of the 7. It arises with all cittas, no matter vipaka or kusala or kiriya, because without phassa to the object, citta cannot experience that, right?
Yes.
Okay, no doubt about phassa. It cannot be known now, like the other cetasikas we're talking about now cannot be known yet. But it can be object of understanding gradually, little by little, until it's there to the direct awareness, if there are conditions to directly experience it. That's why even it's there, it's unknown, but it can be learned or understood, because it's different from seeing. The other moment must be different from seeing, hearing, smelling, and so forth, the 10.
Yes.
Can somebody cannot see?
No.
Can
No,
it
it can't.
experience the same object as seeing?
Yes.
It has to. It cannot change to have other objects, because it's conditioned. As the seeing has fallen away, the rupa hasn't fallen away yet. So the citta, which arises from the impinging of that rupa and the pasada, condition other citta to experience the same object, because that object hasn't fallen away yet. But since it does not see, but it experiences the same object as seeing, so it needs vittaka to lead it to experience that object. That's why vittaka is the foot of the world. Besides the 10, it leads to any object by conditions, because through the 5 sense doors, it cannot lead to other objects besides that which is experienced by the previous one. So it needs vittaka, see, to lead it, to lead all cetasikas and citta to experience that object. Otherwise, what will lead? They are all just in themselves as their own characteristics, but vittaka leads them all, citta and cetasika, to arise together to experience the same object, which seeing sees. So taka arises with, we can say, almost citta besides the 10. But usually there must be, but there are also citta without vittaka, which is not the daily life at all, not seeing, hearing in daily life. It's another higher one, which don't need vittaka, but it can arise. But we talk about daily life as the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Seeing sees, and then it cannot do anything else at all. It just sees. So the other citta, which arises after it, needs vittaka to lead it to the object which seeing sees from then on. Sampadichana, Santirana, and other Chitta needs Frittaka as the reality which leads the other Cetasika and Chitta to experience that object.
So when, for instance, in the mind door process, Vittaka would lead those Citta as well, Citta and Cetasika, to the object, whether it's the image of the sense object or a concept. So without Vittaka leading, there could be no thinking. Is that right?
The other Chittas cannot see, cannot hear, cannot smell, cannot taste, cannot experience tangible objects. So all of them need Vittaka, which arises and lead other Cetasikas and Citta to experience that object which seeing sees, but it cannot, they cannot see because they are not seeing Citta.
Correct. Right.
This is daily life unknown, no change, no one can make it different.
Yes.
To understand
Yes.
that even to experience object is not by I or anyone, by conditions only. To know that no self, more and more. Any word of the teachings of the Buddha shows up that which we take for self for a long, long time, but actually it's not at all. Anatta and sunyata. So, moment of thinking, moment of Notavaravachana, moment of Lopa, and all needs Vittaka. After the process of seeing and Pavanka, what is there?
A mind door process.
No one can do anything at all. It has to be the first mind door process, experience the object, which is experienced through the sense door. But it's not the actual one, but it's just like the replica or the photocopy, the object.
Right.
The same, exactly.
Yes.
You cannot tell the difference between the real one and the photocopy or the replica. But it's there. Just no one can separate because it's Panya only which can understand an object at a time, only one at a time. And that it's gone completely. And what is experienced is only nimitta of the succession of the moment of arising and falling away. Very difficult to understand, to directly experience. Even Vipassana Jnana is nimitta. The object is nimitta. By way of learning about the processes, we know that it's impossible to have panya of anything in that process when there is no conditions. That's why even kusala can arise through the 6 doorways, but who knows? And usually it's not or it is. But when it is Vipassana Jnana, even that nimitta cannot make known as the difference between the processes which are sense doors and the mind doors, because they are all nimitta. But it experiences the same characteristic, the same reality, to understand that as no self. Because nothing is there, only the succession, which appears as no arising and falling away at all in the beginning, the first Vipassana Jnana. That's why it's so very deeply down there under the ocean of ignorance.
How is it, you just said that even at the Vipassana Jnanas, Panya does not know or cannot know the difference between the different processes. And by that, you're meaning the sense door processes and the mind door processes. And you said it was because they're all nimitta. I'm not quite understanding that. Have we lost Ajahn?
I don't know.
Sometimes we do. She usually comes back.
But
There we go.
she's still here. What happened to her? Sorry.
What was your question?
Yeah.
Oh, my question was about vipassana jnanas. Even at that level, Panya does not know the difference between the sense doors, a sense door process and a mind door process, because they're all nimitta. As I recall, I think that's what I heard. And I was just wondering if Ajahn could talk about that a little bit more.
Can there be what is seen now as it is just one moment of seeing, another moment of sampadichana, sandrina, and so on?
No.
That's
Must
why
be
that which is seen is the nimitta of not only one seeing. Is that right?
Yes.
So
yes.
now it's like that. But Panya is not that degree that it can experience just one characteristic at a time. Right?
Yes.
So whatever appears now is nimitta, right?
Yes.
And no Panya to understand that it's the nimitta at all. Because
Correct.
the arising and falling away of each does not appear.
Correct.
And when seeing just falls away, and can Panya follows it and have just one citta, that very citta to be object?
No.
See, that's why no matter when, it's their nimitta. That which does not have nimitta is only nibbana. Because nothing arises and falls away as conditioned realities at all. So much now unknown. Sampatichana, santirana, bodhapana, see, pawanka, and everything. Only seeing seems like it's there all the time.
Yes.
Even so, it's not known as not self. That's why from understanding the truth that it's the moment of experiencing only that, which only the seeing citta can experience it. Among all other cittas and cittasikas and the world, what can be the object is only that which is seen. See? So what does it mean? So many mind or process in between, now unknown, because seeing and the succession of that processes is so fast that it seems like there is only seeing, no mind or process in a day at all.
I see.
When this hearing, only sound appears, no understanding of mind or process at all. So vipassana is just opposite of the magician, the citta, arises and falls away so very fast. It is the moment from developing direct awareness, just one at a time, and understand better and better of that one, can condition vipassana jnana. Unexpectedly, what is the object there to be object of vipassana jnana? All the way it shows up the anatta-ness. That's the way to have less and less attachment, but very gradually, very little at a time. So even the first vipassana jnana is not the higher vipassana jnana. See the developing of panya, the developed panya, that it can be only by understanding little by little about that which appears. So when it's vipassana jnana, mind appears, right? Because
Yes.
even now, so many mind doors, much more than the sense door.
Yes.
That's why vipassana jnana appears as the understanding of the way it is, no one at all. In darkness, no world, nothing appearing. Only a characteristic of an object appear to panya, which understands its characteristic as that which cannot experience or that which is experienced right then. No doubt about the characteristic of nama, citta, which experiences. But the object cannot be just like one thing or who that can experience only one citta or one process.
Yes. So it's always the nimitta that
Right.
experience. Yeah.
Begin to know that we live in the world of nimitta with avijja, no understanding, until listening to the teachings, consider it carefully, and then begin to understand the truth, which is covered by so many, many moments in a day as something.
Mm.
So we begin to understand from understanding intellectually, and then the patipatti that one is alone and it's not self. That one is our reality. So
Mhm.
are you alone now? You think that I'm alone, no one there, but actually so many things around.
Exactly.
Seeing what is heard and the thought and so on.
Yes, I don't really ever feel that I'm alone. There's always something happening, something going on, thinking or hearing or whatever.
That's right. Because no matter where you are, without the others, nothing at all. But realities are there.
Yes. Right. And if there's no understanding of the realities at a very deep level, then the world is around you.
So when one thinks that Dhamma is easy, it's wrong. And when one thinks, okay, it's not me, just that it's not enough. It's much more deep down there to be penetrated by panya. So this
Yes.
level, it seems like nothing more, but actually, when there is more and more understanding, it's so deep that only higher panya can understand it as it is by conditions, not by I try to do. It's impossible. Do what? No understanding.
Right. And just a little bit of understanding is just a beginning. It's still long, long, long way to go.
That's why this is the way not to do anything, because understanding that what we are thinking about, there are so many things around by conditions, and there is the idea of I, another reality, which try to do, to wish to have knowledge or understanding without developing from understanding the words of the teaching more and more.
Yes.
And the moment of understanding is the most precious thing in samsara.
Mm.
Not as blind, not in the dark, so dark, not avijja, not understand anything from birth to death.
Right. It's long and it's slow and it's.
That's the way to have less attachment, little by little, to the idea of self.
Yes, and it's the more I listen, the more I recognize the attachment to having still more understanding. It becomes more and more apparent. Even though I go through phases where I think, well, I'll just understand for sake of understanding, but then recognize that there is, as you said earlier, wanting something from it, wanting more understanding. So it's very subtle and it's very, very tricky. Attachment is.
And that is the beginning to see the Buddha from his words, not from the picture or whatever. The word, only the word does not bring about understanding. Who's the Buddha?
Mm. Ajahn, I don't know how much time you have this morning, and I don't want to keep you from, you've been very generous coming online with us at 7 o'clock in the morning for you. I don't know how you're feeling about whether we should continue on a bit more here or.
All depends on you.
Thank you. You're back, Roti. We can see you. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Not yet.
Everyone is going to die. Is that right?
Yes.
It can be now.
At some point.
Yeah.
So the best thing in life is to understand what is heard, the truth of what is there, and have less attachment to the idea of self. Otherwise, it's useless to listen just to the words and try to understand the meaning. That's not enough. But reality right now can be known little by little from hearing and considering the teachings of the Buddha. The words of truth, absolute truth. Is anyone ready to let go the self, the idea self? To be truthful.
No.
Sutta. Ready?
How can one get ready, Ajahn?
Understanding the truth better and better. To see the useless of that, which is not self, not anything permanent at all, just the conditioned reality in a very short moment, arising and falling away by conditions. That's all. When there is the understanding of no self, what's the use of having that to arise again and again each life? So to be bored or see the danger of life is not from thinking without understanding. And even now, it's not ready for anyone to let go the I, my friend, my family, my wealth, or whatever, my body. Do you have legs now? Hands? Does
Yes,
anyone have hands, finger, eyes, ears now?
We think we do.
I don't have eyes, nor fingers, nor legs.
As long as it's not thinking about that, it's not there at all.
There are legs and eyes, but they don't belong to any.
No, you think about that. It does not appear. Completely. If there is no eye, there be still leg and arms.
No.
See, before there can be the moment of alone, nothing there at all. That is the beginning of understanding until it appears to panya of that level. It's not just say that no, it's the understanding, but it's not the exact, the direct understanding of that which appears now yet. But it will condition when right understanding keep on developing the idea of no self at all, letting go little by little. And realities that we are talking about can appear well to panya only. But before it can appear well as vipassana, it appears now with how much understanding, depending on the development or accumulation of each person, each jitna, from eons and eons up to now. Otherwise, Sariputta cannot be Sotapanna when he heard the words of Assaji about reality then. Unexpectedly, for everything, no wanting or wishing. It means that more understanding little by little about no self, no one, and no thing. Otherwise, study with the idea of self. We are there sitting, writing, or reading is there, not understanding a reality which is there from reading or considering yet.
We can say we can do nothing. There's nothing we can do. It happens by conditions. And one can know that at an intellectual level, but there's still a number of times when I'll find that I think I understand that. And yet I'll find myself, when I'm reading, for instance, just trying to work harder at understanding what is there, or I've even noticed every once in a while I'm sitting there repeating it. And I guess somehow unconsciously thinking, well, if I repeat it, maybe I'll understand it more or know it better. So it's very subtle, the not trying, not being attached.
And that is not you, it's panya, right understanding, which is not self. And at that moment, there is also memory, sanya. See, it's still I. That's why not enough to be complete understanding of reality which is there until panya develops and can directly understand what is there as it is unexpectedly, not just try to know it, to have it at all. It's the moment of letting go, or the moments of understanding. See,
Excuse me.
the five khandhas are object of clinging, upadana khanda.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only this life, not just next life, until panya is ready to understand what is there as it is, as it's heard long time ago. Not just only once or twice.
Many lifetimes, it seems.
Enough, many. Okay.
Probably.
Depends on panya. So panya knows that it's not yet the perfect understanding of whatever appears now, because it's just hearing, considering, and different from moment of direct awareness. And direct awareness is not used to the characteristic which is not self, all of them yet, until they're conditions enough to understand clearly, perfectly, that that cannot be anything else, just that reality, which appears so clear as it is, as not anything at all.
I keep adding to my accumulations to sit down and read or to listen.
It doesn't matter, because the Dhamma is, but the understanding can understand whatever is there by conditions, because there is no sitting, right?
No.
But there are realities which can be experienced and understood. When there are enough or right conditions.
I often hear you referring to something just popping up. So it's completely without expectation. And
Did you have enough food for today for thought?
Yes.
I think so.
Because it's for considering when there are conditions, because these moments are conditions for other moments to understand better and better.
Mm.
So just one word we can talk about so that it can be food for thought to understand its characteristic as not self. Only one word, repeated. Even not by hearing, but from memory and thinking about it.
If you want to talk, raise your hand.
Did you want to talk, Bev?
Well, there's so much to consider, to listen and
Speak up. Yeah.
and think about, and thinking and hearing Ajahn speak. I go away with so much to turning in my mind, going through the mind door process. It's food for thought.
So
Yes.
just please go on.
Head, Bev.
So just even to think about it is conditioned. See, less or more, very rarely or very often, depending on conditions. To understand that all depends on conditions to arise, it's the beginning of understanding the truth, which keeps you on the way. Understand what is there, which is the truth. No one there, uncontrollable, little by little, as much as conditions can allow or rise or make it rise.
Intellectually, I think things arise because of conditions, and I intellectually I sort of get that I can't control light arising or sound or hearing or touching, hardness, softness. But when it comes to thinking, I'm confused as how thinking arises. It always seems as I am thinking, and I know, it's arising because of conditions. So, that's hard to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
Sometimes. The I, to get the I out of the thinking arising.
So Panya can understand wrong understanding when it is there, and understand can condition the understanding that it's not self, even the wrong understanding, even the wrong path, intention, or trying to do something to know reality. Panya knows that it's wrong because that self, the idea of self is there, and attachment, lopa, is there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a long, long way, and it takes quite a long, long time, but it's so very useful, worthy moment in life, in samsara, see? Like the second noble truth that should be eradicated or eliminated according to the level of understanding is lopa. It does not appear, but it's there. Only Panya can know when it's there, as it, not self. No matter what strength of lopa or any reality, it doesn't matter at all because it's conditioned. No one can do anything but can understand it as just a conditioned reality. That's the way to have less and less attachment to the idea of self. This is the only point or purpose of listening to what appears now, to know the truth of it. Is this enough for today? Or would you like to have more understanding of any word or any question?
If you have the time, I have one more, and hopefully, well, I don't know how long it will be.
It doesn't matter at all.
Okay, thank you. You talked about Satyanana at the level of pariyatti earlier. Just briefly, can you talk about that a bit more, please?
Because the Four Noble Truths must be with the Jnana Satya of pariyatti. See, can it be possible to understand that which appears now without hearing, listening to the teachings carefully? Impossible. That's why the Four Noble Truths are 12, which is necessary to condition that moment of experiencing directly penetrating the truth of reality right now. It needs pariyatti, so there must be pariyatti of the Four Noble Truths to understand what is dukkha and what is the samudaya and the nibbana. When there is no attachment to wrong understanding, this is the beginning of being the Arya person. See, it doesn't mean that no understanding of what appears now at all. It's impossible, because what is Arya is Panya. Without Panya, it cannot be Arya at all. So it needs the pariyatti as the Jnana Satya of the Four Noble Truths. So 4 with pariyatti, and 4 with patipatti, direct experience, and 4 with pativeda. Kiccayana, Katayana, but there must be the Satyayana of the pariyatti first of all. Without it, no one can think even about that which is now appearing as not self. That's why the Four Noble Truths must be 12 with the pariyatti of the 4, patipatti of the 4, and the pativeda of the 4. Who knows that this moment is the path? Understanding little by little will lead to the end, the enlightenment of the truth. But by then of moment of enlightenment, one knows the way, the path that one develop to that level of understanding, the penetration of the truth right now, as it is, unexpectedly, as Sanatan is. So each word of the Buddha conform with other words because they are absolute truth, never change at all. That which arises by conditions falls away. No one can do anything because actually no one. It's the way of Dhamma, each Dhamma as it is, as not self. If one studies without understanding that the point or the purpose is to understand the truth of Dhammas as not self at all, one will try to read, try to understand the word, but not understanding the reality right now. We don't mind that which has gone and that which hasn't come yet, but now can be object of understanding. What is seen cannot be anything else, just that which impinges on the eyelids. That which is behind your back cannot be known, cannot be directly experienced or seen. The truth is all the time. It depends on understanding. Without the teachings of the Buddha, the enlightened one, the enlightened the truth of realities, it's impossible to think by yourself to understand what is there as it is. It takes time and it takes the parami as well. Because a kusala citta cannot experience or understand what is now.
Earlier, Ajahn, when we were talking about the Jnana Satya at the Pariyati level, I think you mentioned something about it prevents the idea of I will or I shall do something. And that
Because can you make seeing to arise? To do
No.
something for seeing to arise? And this is the first dukkha.
Mhm.
Anicca, dukkha, anatta. At level of pariyati, no doubt that actually there's no one to do. That's why it prevents the wrong understanding to do. But no one can stop wishing or hoping or wanting. It's rare, it is conditioned, but Panya can understand it as it is, as no one. That's why there must be the understanding of whatever appears in order to have the moment of absolutely eradicated that idea. And that has to be the moment of experiencing Nibbana. Panya knows that that cannot be conditioned at all because no conditions to be wrong view anymore. Because right understanding develops on and on to that degree. But as long as sanya is not known, as whenever there is thinking, it is sanya at moment of remembering that which is the thought, such thought, certain thought only because of sanya of it. And vittaka leads to that object, see? Different cetasikas perform their functions unknowingly each moment with citta.
Yes. Thank you.
So much to think about, right?
Lots to think about.
To be considered, yeah. And
For a
it's
long time.
conditioned to think about it or not thinking about it.
Reading about it again.
Yes, yeah. It's not you who thinks at all. See, everything is but conditioned, citta and cetasikas.
Stimulations, yes.
Considering, listening, hearing, considering.
And it will be direct awareness of that which we are talking about now. And that moment is different from intellectual understanding for sure, different level. And Panya knows that it's not that intellectual level.
Mm.
Does anyone else have some more questions or comments? Well, lots of food for thought. And I'm thinking Tanajan probably needs some food for breakfast.
And so much to think about from our discussion today, I think.
Yes.
And
Yes.
not change from no self into self. Even
No.
there is the idea of self, but it can be known as our reality, not me. Everything is conditioned reality arising by conditions only.
And
And
it
it's
seems to
gone
me
completely
every time,
just a moment ago.
Mm.
And each moment is like this, unknown until Panya is there enough to understand the truth of our reality, which is there. from intellectual understanding, Panya there can understand what appears now as it is, because hardness appears without any understanding, and with intellectual understanding, and with direct awareness until it appears just one as not there, no self. The same object in daily life must be understood, known as it is, little by little. That it's there, but no understanding yet. But when it's there with direct awareness, it's there. Panya knows with direct awareness. And how much understanding is there? Panya knows the truth. No cheating.
And even thinking about wrong view, thinking with wrong view is also no self.
Certainly.
It's also anatta. So we self, how do I put this? Yeah. So
yeah.
The idea of self arises as a
From
reality.
yeah.
It's also arises by conditions, no control, as anatta.
Yeah. Absolute truth.
Yes. I see we have 2 new people joined us here. I don't know whether they want to give themselves a presence or not, or have anything to say. Leanne and Tao.
I
Good
think
morning,
there is enough for today to be food for thought after.
So too.
Okay.
I think it
Yes.
is very generous so far. Thank you.
Very
See
generous.
you next Monday.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, and 1 week from now. Yes.
Yes.
Thank
Another
you.
subject or many things to talk about again, little by little,
So
to
many.
be firm, to know that actually there's no self at them.
Yes. Yes. Thank
ส
you
วัส
very
ดี
much.
ค่ะทุกคนค่ะ
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
Thank you.